This will be a short demonstration video of the Forest Manufacturing Model 2054 vertical blade traveling table bandsaw. I have other videos to go through all the features of these machines, so this will be a little bit shorter, less wordy. But the basics are, this is a high-speed bandsaw, useful for cutting things like insulation materials, foams, plastics, rubbers, graphite, basically anything other than metal. So blade speed on this machine is 3,000 feet per minute. Again, this is a vertical blade, traveling table, so put your workpiece on the table and the table moves to make the cut. This machine is equipped with our optional workpiece positioning fence. The customer for this machine is cutting this material. It's an insulation board, really light and fluffy, maybe a pound, pound and a half per cubic foot, foil lined. They get this stuff in pallets. The sheets are 4 foot by 8 foot. They get it in pallets 4 foot tall. So they wanted a bandsaw to cut these blocks. So we have it set up with a 4 foot horizontal throat, actually a 50-inch maximum distance from the saw blade to the fence face when it's all the way over, and 8 foot plus a stroke and about 50, 52 inches of maximum working blade length. So it's sized to cut those blocks along any relevant dimension. Because they're working with full stacks of loose boards and they want to be able to index and position them, we built the fence face 48 inches tall. It's perhaps overbuilt. This is 3/8 inch thick aluminum. It's backed with a big piece of tubing. It's reinforced. It's a very nice mechanism. It can be used to move this stack of material, but this is foam. I don't actually market this machine as being intended to move workpieces around. The marketing materials say, put the fence where you want it, push the workpiece up against the fence. And if you're cutting something very high density, say you're cutting blocks of graphite that weigh 3,000 pounds that have a very high coefficient of friction, you'd be hard pressed to move it with a fence. But foam, it'll move this just fine. We'll demonstrate in a moment. This machine has our basic controls. So it gives you fuse disconnect, obviously, gives you control over obviously saw start, saw stop with an overload, pneumatic tensioning with fault indication. So if you break a blade or you don't have air pressure, you fault out. Fault indication for the blade drive motor and the table drive motor. Push button control for table forward and reverse directions, plus of course stop. Separate speed controls for the forward reverse direction. In general, after you make a cut, when you return to home position instead of next cut, you want that to happen as quickly as possible, so you'll just leave that speed probably 100%. When you're cutting, you'll find some speed that works for you, you'll leave it there. You don't always want to be switching back and forth, so we have the 2 speed controllers. The fence mechanism here has an electronic digital readout, and I leave it normally set up to measure distance from the blade to the fence face. But you can also zero it. So by resetting it, it now shows 0, and I know you can't see that, but it now says 0. If I want to cut off, for example, 4 inches, I just move the fence 4 inches. In this case, I'm indexing off 4 inches of material. First, I have to move the table back to the home position. So I'll just hit the table reverse button. Were I pitching this machine to the same customer again, I would offer them our enhanced controls, which includes a push button remote. So you can control the saw while viewing it from any angle. But they're going to be cutting pretty much the same thing over and over and over again. So they're going to find their setup that works, they're just going to push the start button and walk away. The blade I'm using, this is a 1 inch wide, 10 tooth per inch blade. Normally for a material like this, I recommend a 3 tooth per inch blade, so big coarse teeth. The idea being like a fast cut with an acceptable cut finish. I'm trying here a 10 tooth per inch blade, which in theory might give me a little bit better finish on the cut surface and will also cut a little more slowly. Still learning. I've got the table cut speed set up for about Where do I have it? I have it for about 1.2, 1.3, maybe even 1.4 inches per second. So let's start her up, make a cut. Actually got to set the workpiece. So that's the last position. Zero the indicator. Move the workpiece over 4 inches. Easy. Start the saw motor. Start the table drive. Oh, yes. The machine does have dust collection, and Rick just reminded me by turning it on that we need to run the dust collection system with this machine. You can hear the blade is singing in there. It's actually working. You don't normally hear that with a 3/2 per inch at this speed, so the blade is definitely having to work harder to cut at this speed. And that's what it does. Here's my surface I just cut. The surface finish is perfectly fine, actually quite nice. But I do feel I was somewhat limited in how fast I could run the machine there, so if the 3/2 per inch gives an acceptable cut quality, I recommend sticking with that. If you really care about cut quality surface, run a little bit finer tooth. But that is the Forest Manufacturing Model 2054. If you have any questions, please feel free to call or email us. Thank you.